I always had this nagging feeling that my parents favored one grandchild over the others, but I never thought I'd see just how deep that favoritism ran. My name's Martha, and I'm raising two incredible kids on my own. Ella, who's 10, and Leo, who's 7. They're sweet, thoughtful, and tougher than most adults I know, especially after everything we've gone through since their dad was killed in a car accident 3 years ago. From that day on, it's just been the three of us, holding each other up and figuring out life together. My younger sister, Sophie, has a son named Aiden. He's 8, and if you ever talk to my parents, you'd swear the sun rises and sets on that boy. To them, he's not just a grandson, he's practically royalty, their pride and joy, the center of their universe. Meanwhile, my children, who never gave anyone a reason to complain, might as well be invisible background noise. Still, I kept my mouth shut. I told myself it was better to keep the peace. I wanted Ella and Leo to at least have some kind of bond with their grandparents, even if it meant I had to swallow my frustration while they openly showed favoritism. But one weekend, everything changed. That was the weekend that ripped the blinders off, and once I saw the truth, there was no going back. It was my mother's birthday, and she invited the whole family out to their big countryside house for a weekend get-together. I figured it might be a good chance for my kids to reconnect with everyone, especially since they'd been a little withdrawn lately. Ella had even saved her allowance to buy a bouquet of flowers for her grandma, and Leo had spent hours making a handmade card with glitter and little paper hearts. When we arrived, they gave her their gifts with such bright smiles. My mom barely looked at them. She glanced at the bouquet and the card, muttered a quick, "Oh, thanks, just put them on the table," and immediately turned her full attention to Aiden, who just walked in behind Sophie carrying a store-bought cake. "Oh, my angel," she squealed, rushing to hug him like she hadn't seen him in years. Even though she babysits him every other week, I caught Ella's face drop, and Leo blinked hard before whispering. She didn't even say thank you. My heart broke right there. The entire evening turned into an Aiden showcase. Every word out of his mouth was brilliant. Every sound he made was adorable. Every mistake was brushed off as just a phase. When he spilled soda all over the couch, my dad laughed and said, "That's what boys do." But when Leo accidentally knocked over a single coaster, Dad barked at him to be more careful. At dinner, Aiden decided to laugh at Ella for not knowing how to play chess. "You don't even know that? Even babies know that," he sneered. I saw Ella's eyes fill with tears, and I had to step in. I stood up, trying to keep my tone steady. "Mom, Dad, could you please tell him to be nicer?" My mom took a sip of wine and waved me off. "Kids tease, Martha. Don't make a big scene." That night, after I tucked my kids into bed, I cried silently. I should have packed up, walked out, and driven home right then. I should have known better. But I told myself maybe it was just one rough day. Couldn't have been more wrong. The very next morning, I left for half an hour to grab Ella's allergy medicine from a nearby pharmacy. When I came back, I found my kids sitting on the porch with their little suitcases by their sides. I slammed the car door and rushed up to them. "What are you doing out here?" Leo's eyes were full of tears. "Grandpa told us we had to leave." "What? Why?" "He said we were being disruptive, that Aiden needed quiet. But we were just playing." His voice trailed off. I stormed inside, my blood boiling. "Dad, what the hell is this?" He didn't even bother to look up from his newspaper. "Your kids were being too loud. Aiden has important testing next week. He needs peace and quiet." "They're children," I snapped. "And Aiden is a gifted child." My mom chimed in, walking in from the kitchen. "He needs a calm environment to thrive." I stared at them in disbelief. "So you threw my kids out of the house?" "You're overreacting," Mom said, rolling her eyes. "They're fine." I looked at them, these two people who raised me, who once cradled my babies in their arms, and the realization hit me like a truck. They didn't love my children. Maybe they never had. The drive home was painfully quiet. My kids sat in the back seat, confused, heartbroken, already doubting their worth. Watching their little faces twist in silence lit something inside me. I was done being the peacekeeper. What nobody in my family knew was that 6 months earlier, after a drawn-out legal battle, I'd inherited my late husband's shares in his tech company. The stake was worth millions. I had gone from scraping by on a widow's pension to owning a large piece of a thriving business. I hadn't shared this news with anyone because I wanted peace. I didn't want to be treated differently. But now I knew better. Now I knew exactly who deserved a place in our lives. I bought a beautiful home in a gated neighborhood. I enrolled Ella and Leo in a private school that focused on emotional support and growth. I found them a child therapist to help them process what had happened. And I promised myself that my children would never, ever feel unwanted again. But I wasn't finished. 2 months later, I hosted a back-to-school brunch and invited the whole extended family. The invitation sounded simple, even modest, but the setup was anything but. Of course, my parents and Sophie showed up. The second they stepped inside, my mother's jaw dropped. "Whose house is this?" "Mine," I said, like it was no big deal. "You bought this?" she asked, her voice shaky. "Yes, with part of the money from the company. I didn't tell anyone because I knew how you'd react." The brunch itself was perfect. Ella and Leo looked so confident and happy, dressed in their new outfits. They laughed, they danced, they played violin beautifully. Leo even guided people to the sunroom where we had turned one wall into his personal art gallery. Ella gave a short, heartfelt speech, thanking everyone for supporting her. That's when I stood up. "I'd like to say something," I said with a smile. "Most of you here have watched my children grow up. You've seen them grieve, heal, and thrive. But not everyone has treated them with kindness." I let my eyes settle on my parents. Their smiles faltered. I was told my kids were disruptive. I was told they weren't as special, that they should leave someone else's home for simply being children. That broke me, but it also woke me up. The room went silent. I used to think staying quiet kept my kids safe, but I've realized the truth. Speaking up is what protects them. And that's what I'm doing now. I turned to Ella and Leo. "You two are my joy, my pride, and my strength. And nobody, no matter their title, will ever make you feel small again." Tears welled up in a few eyes around the room. I looked back at the crowd. As of last month, I created a family trust. Everything I own, this house, my company shares, all of it, belongs to Ella and Leo. It's legally protected until they're of age. Nobody outside this circle will ever touch it. My parents had gone pale. My mother opened her mouth but had nothing to say. I'm done begging for scraps of respect. My children and I have our own table now, and it's full. They left before dessert. No hugs. No apologies. Just awkward silence. I haven't heard from them since. And the truth is, I don't miss them, because for the first time, my kids finally have what they've always deserved. Love, respect, and a home where they come first.